All right, well, welcome everybody. This is our What's Your Path Wednesday focused on family life education. I'm Dr. Dennis. I'm the Department of Child and Family Studies. I'm the chair. And we have another faculty member, Dr. Raquel DeLevy, who is here, and she's going to tell us more about this career pathway. And then a little later, we're going to have someone who is an alumnus from our department, and she's going to talk a little bit more about what it's like to work in this field. She's someone who actually has gotten her family life education certification, and so she's going to tell us more. We're going to do a Q&A with Dr. Munger leading that. Along the way, if you have any questions for Dr. DeLevy as she presents, go ahead and put those in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat, and we will pause for questions from time to time. And there will be lots of time after Dr. DeLevy talks, as well as at the very end for questions. So please feel free to put those in the chat, or there may be also time to unmute and ask them as well. So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming today. And I'm going to pass it over to Dr. DeLevy.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and talking a little bit about family life education and introduce you to this career path. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Maybe give me a thumbs up, everybody, so that I know you can all hear me. You're here. I will, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm all glad that you're here. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. You can all see it clearly, hopefully. So family life education, an introduction to a new career option for you. I'm going to first tell you a little bit about what it is, but before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit of a story. Once upon a time, there was a village built upon the edge of a river where the water turned roughly over the rocks. So you might be wondering why I'm telling you the story. But there were warning signs at the river's edge, but people often ignored the signs and fell into the river, right? This sounds like a big problem for this town. What did they do? A net was put downstream to catch those who had fallen into the river. A full-time crew was hired to watch for villagers floating down the stream. And pull them from the river, dry them off, and get them to the ambulances. And a new hospital was built closer to the river's edge. But the problem remained, as many villagers were still getting injured or drowned. So this is where family life education comes into play. Because if you think about how do you really solve this problem, you can think about maybe things that would really prevent the problem, right, from happening at the first place. So, for example, you can help build a large fence along the rough part of the river, right? That would be a preventative action. You could offer swimming lessons to the people who lived in the village, so that if they fell into the water, they would know how to survive. So that would be education, right? Or you could speak to villagers about the dangers of going into the river without a life jacket. So you could create awareness, about the dangers of about this river. So if the village did all this, right, the result would be that fewer and fewer people would be falling into the river, and those who did fall would be better able to help themselves out. So this story is really to tell you a little bit about what family life education intends to do. Family life education refers to any organized effort to provide family members with information, skills, experiences, or resources intended to strengthen, improve, or enrich their family experience. So you might actually be more familiar with family life education than you might think. But you've all heard about parenting classes, for example, right? It's about educating parents, either new parents or parents struggling with a certain specific issue, in educating them, giving them skills or experience or resources. So that's one family life education that you're probably very familiar with already. Family life education tends to be more preventative than therapeutic. So it's not really about fixing the problem after it happens, but really catching it before it becomes a problem. And that's why it's very, very effective, because it is much easier, as you probably know from your health, it is much easier to prevent a problem from happening than fixing it afterwards. Family life education is also very multidisciplinary and multi-professional in its practice. So you can be a nurse and be a family life education. You can be a teacher and be a family life educator, or you can be a therapist and be a family life educator. So as I will continue to explain, you can find jobs in very different professional settings in order to practice family life education. So some of the common examples of family life education, as I have mentioned before, is parent education is one of them that you might all heard of. Sex education is another one that you might have heard of. And relationship education. Sometimes churches offer that, or some couples go through relationship education to strengthen their relationship. And relationship education is different than, say, marriage and family therapy, because when you come to a marriage and family therapist's office, you already have had so many problems that you are trying to fix. Whereas if you go and get relationship education, this is more aimed at giving you skills before you have problems, so that you can use those skills to prevent problems from developing or from happening. But there are many other topics covered by family educators. So nutrition could be one, bullying, teen pregnancy, parents, children with special needs, mother-daughter relationships. It is it's literally limited by your imagination. Everything that involves families, and it would be an area of improving their lives, would be considered part of the domain of family life education. Any questions so far? Please feel free to interrupt, or should I wait for the Q&A at the end? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, people can put them in the chat. If we see
Okay.
any, we'll kind of let you know.
Okay, wonderful. So the course that really corresponds to the family life education the most is your CHDV 4440. And in this course, you really have all of the content you need to become a family life educator and or explore the certification track. It's probably one of those hands-on courses, and it is 100% relevant to your professional skills in the workforce. It has a huge presentation component. It also has a huge curriculum development component where you get to practice a lot of your skills in the area of family life education. Just to, again, talk about how multidisciplinary it is, I would, if you are interested in working with children and families, I would say it is safe to say that most of you will do some family life education at some point in your careers. Meaning, if you're a teacher, you are going to probably offer a parenting class, with parents who are suffering with who are dealing with an issue. Or let's say if you want to work with hospitalized children, you might have a workshop supporting parents who deal with hospitalized children. So all of you at some point probably will do some family life education without even knowing the name of it. So it's really good, I think, that you're exploring this career path and put a name to it, so that you're a little bit more intentional about the career that you might want to pursue. So this path, this career path, family life education path, comes with a certification. Now, we as the Cal State LA do not give the certification, but we prepare you to take this certification. The certification is given by National Council of on Family Relations. I call it NCFR. We call it NCFR in the field. It certifies family life education educators Our department is an accredited program by NCFR. So our program meets the 10 of the content areas that is required to become a family life educator. What are these content areas, you might wonder? Basically, you need to know enough about one, families and individuals in societal contexts. And you can see each content area is attached to a course that we offer. Internal dynamics of families, human growth and development, human sexuality, interpersonal relationships, family resource management, parent education guidance, family law, professional ethics, and family life education methodology. So all of these contents need to be, you need to be basically competent in all these content areas for NCFR to say, okay, you know enough about family life education. And like I said, with our coursework, you fulfill their requirements to become a family life educator. So our CFLE career pathway option meets the 10 CFLE content areas. Like I said, your certification is not given by us. Like I mentioned, it is given by another entity called NCFR. However, our graduates in our department qualify to complete an abbreviated CFLE application process. So basically, rather than taking an exam and prove to them that you know all these content areas, just by taking our coursework in this track, NCFR recognizes you as, okay, this person knows enough about this area that we can certify them. So that is an advantage. I want to also briefly mention about how to apply for it without overwhelming you. So I'm just going to, go over this very quickly, but I very strongly encourage you to contact me if you seriously think about applying. I can, direct you, and we can go over your material so that, you complete the application process with success. So you have to submit your official transcripts. They have a checklist that you have to basically check, show that you completed. You have to sign their code of ethics, and the application form needs to be submitted, and the prices are here. As mentioned, these are the important websites that guide you to the checklist, and also explaining the process of how to become certified certified family life educator. You will have access to these PowerPoints, so I'm not clicking on these, but they're definitely ready for you to click on them and go to the appropriate pages. So you might wonder, why should I do this, right? Why should I follow this career path? I would say that it is a great resume builder, right? A lot of times it's definitely during an interview, it's a conversation opener. People usually are curious about what it means. And so when you explain it, it definitely shows competence in this area. It's something that is complementary to your undergraduate degree. It validates your experience and education, because it is a certification by another entity. In addition to your school diploma, you have another entity basically saying, okay, this person knows enough about these particular areas. It increases your credibility as a professional. It is also the first professional title that you can have after getting your bachelor's degree. So again, it's a great resume builder because of that. It adds credibility to our field by defining standards and criteria, and it provides avenues for networking with other family life educators, both locally and nationally. So there are a lot of benefits to this career path. And again, if the courses that are required to take, if those are of interest to you, it's just one additional step that you have to do with NCFR by just completing this certification process, and then you're certified. You already have taken the courses, why not get certified, is how I think about it. If you wonder about employment settings for FLE, like I said, it's a very multidisciplinary field. And you can work in any of these settings: adoption, adult education centers, after school programs, CPS, community education, community health centers, correctional facilities, hotlines, early childhood family education, military. I mean, it's just, like I said, it is limited by your imagination, all the settings that you can work at. I think to check in with yourself about whether you would want to pursue this career path, I would just look at this list and say, ask myself, do I see myself working in any of these employment settings? If the answer is yes, then the CFLE path or the family life education path, which again comes with pursuing of the certification, can only add to your recruitability and for the potential employers. So if you have any questions, please contact me. Here's my email address. You will have, again, access to the slides. I'm more than happy to help you through the application process. I'm going to stop sharing. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
So do any students have any questions for Dr. DeLevy? How many of you have taken 4440 already? Are you already in that class, or have you taken it yet? Hopefully in that class, Child Development 4440, you learn a lot about it and you kind of get practice, getting to see what it's like to be a family life educator. Heather, do you have a question, or are you just saying you took 4440?
Both.
So we're taking it right now. Heather, go ahead and give it. What's your question?
So I'm a graduate student. I already signed up to, I'm pretty much getting my experience hours right now. And I just had a few questions about, like, as far as getting the hours, they said that like majority had to be after we graduate. And I was thinking, or I was wondering, is that more like a half and half, or like more so 2/3 needs to be afterwards? Or
Heather,
what
let me
does that look
ask you this. Did you do your undergrad with us?
Yes.
Okay, and how far out from your graduation date are you?
I have to be
When did
certified
you,
by
meaning when
27.
did you, oh, okay, so you know already. So because I think there is a 3-year window.
5 years.
Oh, is it 5 years? Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your question? I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I understood that. So in terms of hours, you were asking about the hours. If you've done your
Yeah.
practical hours, the provisional application does not require hours. So all of your practicum hours that you've taken, 2000, 21, 100, 2200, at the end of the checklist, there's a practicum section. If you've taken all of those classes, you don't have to do additional hours.
Oh, my understanding was with the curriculum that we took here at Cal State LA, all we have to do was either the 3,200 or the 1,600 hours if you're a graduate student. So because I got my BA here with you guys and went through the program, I don't have to do any additional work experience hours. I should go straight to
Application, yes.
full application or full certification.
Provisional, it's called provisional application, which is all
Okay,
you
yeah.
need. I mean, you're just, in order for you to write CFLE after your name, you just have to have the provisional.
Okay,
so you
so I
don't
have
have to have other hours.
So I do have the provisional application, but I still have to get the work experience, correct?
No, that's what I'm saying, that no, you don't have to. If you've done your practicum, that counts enough in terms of hours. It counts to, it qualifies you to get provisionally certified.
Okay, and then when am I able to upgrade to the full certification?
That's a good question. I am not sure about it. I'm really not sure about that transition. I think when you're in the field, and the next time you're in the field, you're working as a family life educator.
Okay.
That's a question for NCFR, I would say, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
So you're almost there. You just have to apply. Basically, that's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, so I applied and I have the provisional certification. So I guess I'm just working towards the full certification then now.
Oh, you are already certified.
Yes, I have the provisional certification.
Okay, great.
I was approved.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. That's great. That's very inspiring.
Thank you.
And that's interesting though, is that if you have the provisional after you get your bachelor's degree, and then you go on to our master's program as Heather has, can the field work that you do in the master's count towards the full?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe a lot of have you done your 5950 yet, Heather? Or are you still working on that?
Yes, so I was counting those hours, and then I was also working at Anna Bing, so I was going to try to count those hours,
Oh,
but
for sure. Those definitely count.
That was some of them were, or most of them were before I graduated. So I was just trying to see how much of those can actually count, since it was, I think I completed 1,000 hours and I have to do 1,600 hours, but majority has to be after I graduate, I think. So I just wanted to
I
see
think
what
that's
that-
that's a very specific question
Yeah.
you're asking, and I don't want to mislead you again, because I am not part of the certification process. I just guide you towards it, and it's better to ask the organizing body to to answer that question.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
my other question was just like as far as like courses and opportunities to like learn about CFLE to gather the hours, like would this workshop count towards those hours? Or could it?
No, because they're asking you to do the educating, not receive education.
Okay.
They want you to practice it. So for example, I'm a therapist, like I count those hours. I also count my teaching towards my hours. So those, because I am doing the educating, those count. But if you're receiving education, that doesn't count.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Do we have any other questions? So yeah, it's great to
I
to
had
have
one question.
a good example from Heather. All right, go ahead, Valerie.
I'm sorry. So I'm still a freshman, and I know right now it's best to try to look for opportunities to take like service hours, because I know it affects you later if you don't. But what's the best option for me as a freshman right now?
In terms of hours, so in terms of hours, like I was saying, if you follow this track, there's a built-in hours in there with the practicum hours. So if you take the courses that are listed in our in the checklist and in our pathway, you will have done enough hours already. So 2,000, 2,100, 2,200 are some of the courses with hours. YAA, like there are different ones that are listed there. So you don't have to do another extra.
Okay, my understanding was having to also take service hours after even taking the courses as well. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know you just have to take the practicum hours for the provisional one.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Jennifer, you had a question here. I'm currently following the Child Life Specialist pathway, and I saw that all pathways can qualify for different. That's very true. Certified Family Life Education. Does that mean I can take the electives for the Child Life Specialist and also get my certificate for Family Life by doing those other three? Exactly. You can definitely do both. I don't see why not. And that would be a very smart thing to do, I would say, because you're killing two birds with one stone. Not that we want to kill birds, but
And so I think for someone like Valerie, or anyone who's still early, and if you want to make sure that you're taking the classes that are the best fit for you, I would recommend either you could make an appointment to see me. I'll put my email in there, or Dr. DeLevy also can give you more advisement about specifically for Family Life. She has a lot of can give help with that, but I will put my email and make sure that you have, sort of like the right roadmap to follow and everything. If you do it through, it will just sort of say, oh, take all of these electives, but it doesn't tell you which electives to take. But if you want to know which specific electives are recommended, then talk to either me or Dr. DeLevy. So I'll put my email in.
And
the
I
chat.
think I just want to reiterate, I think Valerie's question is great, right? Like you might think, well, freshman is too early, but I think that is exactly at the core of family life education, is to be preventative, is to, face a problem head on before it becomes a problem, right? If you're a senior and you're like, well, I want to take these classes, you're going to be a super senior, you are exceeding your credits, we can't really do that anymore, right? But if you're a freshman, you can, shape and curate your schedule in such a way that it sets you up for success. And I think that's, again, at the core of family life education, but it's preventative.
And then, yeah, I think Sarah had a question, which is saying she's currently taking the class 4440. Does certification require taking all of the courses listed?
Yes.
So that's where you just have to make sure you take all of our required courses, but then when it comes to your electives, you want to make sure that you've gotten all the electives that are needed specifically for that pathway. But again, you can also combine it with another pathway as well, like early childhood education or child life specialist.
Right. And I think, Sarah, the best way to secure that you take all the courses is to go to the checklist that I mentioned, that I put on the PowerPoint, the link of, and you can go to NCFR's website that's dedicated specifically for our curriculum. And it's a checklist, literally. It tells you exactly what you need to take to be certified. So I think that is the best way to guarantee that you hit every single course.
And we will be sending these slides to everybody after this meeting and the recording if you want to watch again. Do we have any other questions for Dr. DeLevy? Okay. All right. Well,
good afternoon. I have a question. I'm sorry.
sure. Go ahead.
So my question is in regards to like the provisional, getting the provisional credential. Is there a specific, I'm sorry, certification?
That's okay.
Is there a specific type of work that we have to be involved in? Because I'm a research assistant. Would those hours count or it wouldn't count at all?
So I think Heather's question kind of confused everybody. So for provisional, you do not need to do extra hours. The practicum hours that you complete will be enough. You don't have to do any other extra things. Does that make sense?
Yes, but like I'm more concerned about the type of profession. So I'm a research assistant. Do those hours count? If I were to apply for the full credential, would those hours count?
It depends on what kind of research you're doing. I could see some research counting towards it if you're doing family related things, like the dental project we had a few years ago. That would definitely count because you were in a way involved with families and educating them about dental health. And so yes, some research I would say would count. I can't say that as a blanket statement that all research would, but some could.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And does who decides if it counts or not? Is it CF or the FLCR?
NCFR really decides, and you just have to make a case that you did some family life education or the hours that you're submitting were in, for the naked eye, right? Like it fits, it fulfills that criteria that it served families. Heather?
I also just wanted to comment that once you do have the provisional certification and you're able to look at the application to see what you need to be able to apply for the full certification. So just paying attention to those details will also help you to stay online with what kind of hours you're supposed to be getting and the guidelines and stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It really helps to have somebody on board who has gone through the process, and you also see Araceli also is going to share her experience, but Heather seems like she's just gone through it, and so it's very. I really appreciate you sharing your experience with it. It's very helpful.
Thank you. Any other questions? So, the next part is that we are going to get to hear from Araceli, who's gone through a lot of this process, and she can tell us what she's done. And so thank you, Dr. DeLevy. Again, we will send everybody these slides. If you want to email Dr. DeLevy or get some of the links that are on the slides, you will have access to those later. And we thank you so much for taking time to tell us more about this evening. Thank you, Dr. DeLevy. All right, now we're going to have Araceli Castellanos come in, as well as Dr. Munger is going to lead that part. And so welcome, Araceli.
Hello. Hi.
It's great to see you. How are you doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
All right, I will let Dr. Munger take over from now.
Awesome. Hello, Araceli. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today. We are going to be asking you some questions about your experience. And obviously the questions that we're asking are like guidelines, but if there's ever anything that you want to throw in based on things that you think are important or might be helpful for folks, feel free to ad lib or add anything that you'd like to.
Great.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. So could you describe a little bit about your own educational journey and kind of your own journey with your experience in the field?
Yes, so I started my journey in community college, and at LA Mission College is where I sort of fell in love with child development. And then from there, that's when I decided to look into child development programs and what was physically near me and possible to do. So I looked into a program. Now, again, I want to say this was more than 10, 15 years ago. So a lot of what I experienced may not be true today. But at that time, when I was looking at CSUN, they had a program in child development that was more focused on child and adolescent development. And at that time, when I was looking at Cal State LA, they had a parent educator program, and they had a focused on family. And that's really what kind of drove me that way. So one, I had to learn how to drive. So I learned how to drive so that I can actually get to Cal State LA. And then once I was there, I really, really enjoyed the program. Now, at the time that I was an undergrad at Cal State LA, the FLE program did not exist. But later on in my career, when I came back to Cal State LA, I took the Child Development 4440 as an elective. So I took the class as a graduate student, like maybe a lot of students do as well now. And that's how I learned about the program. I did not go through the coursework, so I had to take an exam and pass the exam to get the provision. Which I guess in this case, that might not be true anymore, but that was my my experience through this. So like I said, I went to Cal State LA in the child development program. And while I was an undergrad student, I also volunteered and somehow got involved into working as a research assistant. So I was, I guess, invited by Dr. Montanari when I was taking her second language acquisition course. And then I learned about other professors who were in the psychology department. And I worked as a research assistant in the psychology department at Cal State LA in the research and media lab. So I had the opportunity not only to, go to school at Cal State LA, but also work at Cal State LA. And I had, a lot of different jobs in different departments, like in nursing and psychology, but just staying around a lot of sort of education spaces, that's really what got me thinking and going back to school, or sort of going and thinking about graduate school. So most of my time I worked as a research coordinator or a project manager for a longitudinal study that was looking at language acquisition and teacher beliefs of dual language learners in preschool. That sort of job opportunity gave me the chance to present at conferences, like at the Western Psychology Association, at the, I think it's called Society for Research in Child Development. So my experience working really got me thinking about graduate school. I took time off because although I knew that I had a passion for child development, I didn't quite know myself or knew what I wanted to do in terms of a career. And, I struggled because I always thought I do want to work at a school, but at the same time, I always felt like, well, there could be more. And, there was a time that I was interested in I think it's called, the marriage and family therapy program at Cal State LA. And then I would look into early education at private schools, at UCLA, at basically any school in California. I was going to stay in California, but I did not know what I wanted to do when I graduated with a child development degree. But I did know that I wanted to go back to school, that I wanted to get into a master's program or something like that. After a couple years, I was actually working in, the customer service. I was not working in my field, with the exception of the research job. I had multiple jobs as multiple jobs while going to school. But when I decided that Cal State LA was really the place to be, I went back, I applied, and I got into the master's program. I still did not know what I wanted to do in terms of a career, but I knew that child development was my passion, and I knew that I still kind of had to figure it out. So once I was in the master's program, that kind of also just getting older and living more, then I started to figure out what I wanted to do or where I felt comfortable. I went through the master's program. I learned about this class, and this class was like one of the best class I've ever taken in the department. At that time, it was pretty new, I think, the class itself. But this class really, really helped me think about everything that I learned in child development, but then how do I actually use it to help someone else? And that's when I learned, okay, I know that whatever it is that I'm going to do, I want to be able to help other people. And whether it's at a school, whether it's, with an agency, it doesn't matter where I'm going, but I know that my purpose is to help other people. And I was interested in working with parents. Oh, sorry, I thought there was a question or something.
I think somebody was just unmuted for a second, so keep going.
Okay, I got my degree, I got my master's. I took the exam to get my my provision, CFLE title, I guess. And that at that point really, really helped me very similar to what Dr. DeLevy was saying. It really helped me as an opportunity to talk about who I am, what I know, and what I can do. So because NCFR and CFLE are not quite well known in California, like perhaps they might be known in other states, a lot of people are really interested when they see that title. They're like, what is that? Well, what does that mean? Well, and then they want you to tell them about it. So that's kind of what makes you stand out from others, from other students that also have the degree, because now you can talk about just all the great skills that you can bring to them and to whoever it is that you're trying to help. So I guess long story short, I got a job in research. It was because that was the skill I had. I was never looking for a job in research, but a lot of my experience in child development was in research. So I got a job in research. I got a government job doing research, but it wasn't the right fit for me. So I had to continue to look for a job. Then I was very lucky to actually find a nonprofit that was very mission driven and really focused on doing what's best to work with community when doing research. So that kind of really spoke to me because I was able to apply for a research job that felt right, that valued the same thing that I valued. And it just happened to be the perfect fit because they were looking for a Spanish speaker to be able to work with parents. And, you know, although I always had a research agenda, you know, my job title was not a family life educator. My job title was a research analyst. I worked for a research department. We always took a very similar approach to what family life education does. So we took an approach to work with families. I had to facilitate many conversations with parents and to be able to get to a space where we can comfortably talk about what the community needs. And that's where a lot of the family life education came in handy. You know, a lot of what I learned in child development in the program in this particular class really helped me to be able to do my job very well. And my job was working as a research analyst for a nonprofit organization. I mean, that's kind of the short version, although I know it's very long.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure so many students can really relate to the idea of like knowing that you have a passion for something, but not exactly understanding just yet how that's gonna come like to be or like manifest itself in your life. And it sounds like when you were in undergrad and grad school, you were really able to engage in a few different sets of opportunities, like working with Dr. Montanari, and then it also sounded like you're working maybe with Dr. Subramanian.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. That's fantastic. And then it seemed like the family life education class you said kind of solidified for you like your interest, or that really resonated with you a lot because it was like a practical application of all of your child development knowledge.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And then I loved and the other part that it just like really I thought was fantastic was the broader application of the family life education kind of values and principles within the context of research. So you were able to kind of braid together the different strands of your experiences, which is fantastic. That's really great.
And I think that's really what helped me get the job. Because you know, they were looking for not only someone, you know, that has the title or can do the research, but they were looking for someone very specific who would not only understand research and, you know, understand how to write reports and disseminate information, but it was about how do you actually get to work with community to do something right. And that's where I felt like, oh, this is where I can shine, because I've had this experience in my department. I had this, certification that gave me sort of that open window for me to be able to say, this is why I'm going to be great for this job.
Excellent, excellent. That's fantastic. And I think that is something that would be of interest for a lot of folks I know who happen to be on the Zoom call today too. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. Let's see. What does, and this might not quite align with your experiences. I know you just said that you kind of use your family life education sort of hat within the context of this research position. And Dr. DeLumpy also mentioned that you can have, like a variety, you can be in a variety of careers and still kind of use this lens or approach or skills. But what does a typical day look like for a family life educator, or what did it look like within the context of the work that you did?
Yeah, so I had sort of a brief moment in my time where I worked in sort of the more traditional sense of the family life educator, where I would work, at a preschool and provide parent workshops. And I had the opportunity to do this a few times. And that was the time when I really, really understood and learned what it was to be a facilitator. So it's something that you talk about a lot, or you hear a lot, or, especially in Child Development 4440, but I really understood what it meant to sort of guide a group or guide a conversation, and to be comfortable with the idea of knowing that you don't know it all. And it's sometimes, people or parents, people in general might expect you as the professional or as the expert to have the answers. And I learned that it's okay to not have all the answers. And it's important to be able to work with what you have. When you are working with a group of parents, you're not the only one that might have answers. There's other people in that group that can join the conversation in perhaps helping one parent with maybe some trouble that they're having with their children. Maybe another parent tried a different approach that worked. And, as long as the information is positive and seems appropriate, you're able to then help guide parents to gain more information from other parents and so on. So just really learning about facilitation or practicing, I guess, like in the work, right? The practicing of the work that you do. But I think it's typical. And I guess that may be a good thing or a bad thing for some people. It might be personal. For me, it's a good thing. Not having a typical day. But what I think what is typical is the process, like of what you have to do as a family life educator, the process of preparing, implementing, and evaluating. That's always typical. Like the process that you do as the educator or whatever role you have, that will always be the same. That will be typical. But every day is different when you work with families.
I love that. I think that's such a really lovely distillation of, first of all, like a key skill that you gained in practice, and then also the idea of just the degree of kind of flexibility that you need in the field, but then the basic processes that you apply to these different situations. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's what really helped me to just be able to get into a job and feel confident and know that I know what I'm doing. Like I said, I had that opportunity to do a lot of that just because of the nature of my job, that I spent a lot of time in working with small groups of parents in communities. but just knowing that I know what I'm doing, I know that this is right and this is the process, that's something that I learned at Cal State LA, that I learned in this class, that as an educator, what you do to do effectively is a process that we learn in that class.
That's wonderful. And I, you know, like sometimes whenever we have like resume workshops and things like that, I think there are so many things like that that students can put on their resume or, you know, speak to in interviews and things. And having those sort of practical experiences within our coursework can be super helpful to like build confidence, like you said, and build skills. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, and I think we actually just answered the next question too, which was how did your classes or fieldwork experience in child development help prepare you for this career? And you mentioned the facilitation piece, the learning the process piece. Is there anything that you'd like to add for this one?
Well, I think that this particular program, and especially as it is now, really kind of prepares you for many field works. Like something that DeLevy was mentioning earlier on, it's just really about how you take what you've learned and then how do you see it applying to whatever it is that you want to do in the future. It just fits so well in so many things. This particular family and child development, not just the path, but I just think the program and in general prepares you for a lot of things, for a lot of different, I guess, career options.
Yeah, totally. And I think even within what you shared already about your experience, you had like the research piece and then the family life education piece. And not only did you have those kind of different sets of experiences, you were also able to integrate them in a way that was unique and maybe extra marketable and aligned with your values and perspective too.
Right.
Which is awesome. That's great. And then oh, what was the process of becoming a certified family life educator like for you?
Well, I did. So once I got my provisional certification, I probably would be able to get the full certification, but I never applied, just being honest. I was just working and being busy, and I don't care what my title says, I want to work. That was where I was, but I was in a situation where I already had a job. But, you know, if I am obviously looking for a job, I go back and make sure and I look, okay, you know, where am I standing? How do I prepare my resume? That's very different, you know, than when you already have your employment. But yeah, my process was different than I think what students are doing now. I had to take an exam. It was a very long multiple choice exam on all those topics. And I had to pass that exam in order to get my certification. At this point, I think I've had enough hours to become certified. So it's just about the application process.
Yeah, those exams can be really tough. Some of them can be like very like long, like not even like content tough, just like sitting there for that long. I think it's hard sometimes too. What do you think are the most rewarding or the best or your favorite aspects of this career or this type of work?
Well, for me, just that no day looks the same. That to me is sort of one of the best things that I really enjoy about working with families or working with parents in you know, in whatever aspect I'm doing this. And also I think the most rewarding part is that it's not just a job. I mean, it's not just like I need to go to work and I need to, you know, be able to provide for my family. It's so much more than that. And, you know, working in any I guess, human service field, right? Working in child development, working with parents, there's a bigger purpose. There is a goal. I go to, when I go to work, I have my own goals, which is to be able to help someone in one way or another. And I think that's what really makes me feel good about myself and be happy with what I'm doing every single day in my job, which I think is kind of like what we all hope to be able to do, right? Be able to provide, but at the same time, we just want to be happy. And finding a job that can actually make you happy is really hard to find. But when you find it, then okay, this is what I was meant to do. This is the right place for me, because, there's always going to be good and bad in every job. There's always going to be people you don't get along with. None of that matters, because when you're working in something that you truly value, that something that really speak to who you are as a person, then you know that that's what you were meant to do.
I love that so much. I think that's really something I'm sure resonates with a lot of folks. And even listening to, when you were speaking earlier about the facilitation aspect and everything, it sounded like you also really valued or prioritize elevating parents' voices and their social connections to one another and their position as experts in their own lives. And I think that part really stuck out to me when you were talking too.
Mhm.
And then the next question, what are the most challenging, this might be like the flip side of the same thing maybe, but the flexibility, the unpredictability, what are the most challenging aspects of this career?
Well, one, which I guess I kind of mentioned, just the lack of recognition, I think, is a challenge. But, although that in itself, there's not a lot that we can do, sort of like at the moment when you really need this, or you really need to, want to work. That lack of recognition is also kind of like what I use to my advantage to be able to, help other people understand how much more I could be of value to an organization, compared to everybody else that has the same degree and has all these great resumes. It's that opportunity for me to say, I have so much more to offer. And I think the other thing would be the challenge, and I think this is just, I guess, a general challenge when you work with families, is just, it can be very emotionally draining. And I think part of that comes with that passion and that idea of, what I want to do is to work with other people and help them in some way, help parents in some way that I can. That can be very, very hard on just like the person, on yourself, on what you bring back home, or how you feel about yourself and about what you were able to do that day. So I think it's really, really important to, if you want to stay and continue to work in this field, you really have to know how to take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, because you need to be in a good place to be able to come into spaces with other parents, and come to spaces where other people might not be in a good place. So it's really, really difficult, to be able to manage all of that. And, it's kind of a process that we all get to learn about ourselves, about how we react to certain things, how we feel about what we're doing every single day. And like I said, there's no day that is the same. So you might have your own agenda or your own plan to go into a group of parents and talk to them about green spaces or how they feel about what's available to their children. But somewhere along the lines, the conversation might lead into something dark. And when you work with people, anything can happen. It's something that you say can trigger something with someone else in a negative way, and the conversation becomes something else. So it's just, I think that knowing that those are going to be things that are going to happen, that no day is going to be perfect, and you are going to be able to take care of yourself when you work in spaces when other people might need you to be the person that kind of has it together and knows what to say.
Oh yeah, and I think what you mentioned there, like the kind of the also like the nuggets of wisdom and advice feeds really nicely into our next question too, which is what advice would you give to a child development major who wants to get into this career?
Well, my advice would be to look beyond child development. And I say this in the sense of sometimes we just don't know that there are so many other spaces that or fields that have very similar interests or career paths that are aligned with what we really want to do. So and even when you look for jobs, you're probably not going to find a job that says family life educator. I would say it's very unlikely to find a job that says you're going to be a family life educator. That's just hard to find. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because they do exist everywhere and in many spaces. It's just the way that we might have to be able to look for it in other spaces. It might be called like a health educator or a home visitor, or sometimes parent advocate, engagement specialist. Just there are many ways that family life educators work, but kind of in disguise, and in different roles or job titles, I guess I could say. There are many job titles that do family life education work. So I would say that, just, talk to other people like in psychology, sociology, public health. They probably want to do the same thing you want to do, and they are probably looking at the same jobs you are. Now, working in a school is obviously fits very well. Working in education fits perfectly. But if you want to, have the opportunity to think about more than that, or where else can this lead me, I think that's really, really great about what you learn in this particular program.
Yeah, that's such a great point. The being able, so like the during the challenges, you mentioned a little bit about like people don't necessarily know what CFLE is, and whenever you are talking to people, you have to do a little like bit of mini education just with them about like, what is this and what kind of skills does it encompass and what sorts of content areas does it encompass. But like with what you were saying right now, I think like a really great point is that the skill of being able to express what it is you're bringing to the table, and whenever you're looking at job positions, not just looking at like the literal words of the positions, but how your skills and your knowledge align with the skills and the knowledge that are being sought after for that specific position. Because a lot of times, you're totally right, we box ourselves in with like thinking like these like specific words have to match, whenever the skill sets that we have are often a lot broader than that. And there's other fields, like you mentioned, health education, home visitation, that would be extremely, extremely relevant for the skill sets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely boxed myself in. That's why that's kind of the advice I want to give. I struggled so much to get a job because, I felt I was boxed in, and I was looking, I was looking very specifically, schools and preschools and teachers, somebody give me a chance, but no one wanted to hire me. Because, according to them, I was overqualified, or I didn't have any experience. And I was like, someone needs to hire me to get experience. And I can't get experience because everybody wants experience. And, that's when I had to then say, okay, I need to sort of open my mind and think about, okay, maybe I can go into research, which was never my intention. I always felt like, oh, it's something that I love to do. But I always thought, I'm going to go the teacher route. I'm going to go into preschool. I'm going to, make my career in education somehow, I just always saw myself working with parents and working with children. And, I was very lucky that I did have an opportunity to do that. But again, I had to look at other options. I had to look at other ways in which I can do what I love to do, and be able to bring the skills that I learned, but perhaps in a different field.
Absolutely. And I thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that is something that, you know, we all have like sort of, oh goodness, like these perspectives about ourselves or about like what it is that we're interested in. And there are so many different ways to live out what you love in different spaces. And, some of them might be not as like apparent immediately, but they're still there. But it is a little bit intimidating whenever you're looking for a job or looking for something to kind of put yourself out there and be like, well, I'm going to try this other thing, and it can be a little nerve wracking, but being able to articulate like, these are my skills, these are the things that I bring to the table, and like really advocate for yourself within the context of your resume, within the context of an interview, is like super important too. Well, thank you so much for sharing about your experience. I really loved what you had to say, and I'm sure that I really resonated with a lot of folks that are in the meeting right now. I would like to go ahead and open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions, you can just go ahead and unmute, or if you prefer to ask it in the chat, you can go ahead and type in your questions in the chat.
And while we're waiting, I did put the link to the feedback survey in the chat. We always like to hear feedback on what you would like to see, what you thought about this session, and what other kinds of sessions you would like in the future. And then I also put the link to the next What's Your Path Wednesday, which is going to be next week on Wednesday, and it's on early intervention, which is very related to family life education as well. You definitely have to, educate families as well in that job. So if you're interested, please come next week as well. And any questions for Araceli? Thank you so much, Araceli. Really interesting to hear about your trajectory, and great advice for students as well.
Thank you.
Yes, there are recordings of the sessions, and after the session, we usually, unless there's like a technical problem, which has happened, we usually send out the PowerPoints and the recordings too. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Araceli. We really appreciate you coming back and spending time with us. And everybody really appreciated your thoughts and advice. And that I think it was probably what a lot of folks like needed to hear at the moment too.
Yes, thank you so much for coming, and maybe we'll have you back with us teaching 4440 again soon. So it's great to see you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.